Are aliens real? And if they are, what would that mean for how we see ourselves, our beliefs, or even our place in the universe? Well, strange sightings in the sky keep making headlines, and blockbuster movies love to feed us wild ideas about alien life. But sometimes reality can be just as strange, if not stranger, than fiction. Sure, most UFO sightings can be chalked up to things like military experiments, weather balloons, or man-made hoaxes. But what about the ones that can't? The encounters that leave seasoned pilots rattled, scientists baffled, and skeptics silent. From unexplained UFO sightings to stories of alien abductions, these 15 encounters challenge the limits of what we know and what we think we know about the universe. Let's start off with Number 15. Chorwon, North Korea. The DPRK, North Korea's official name, is often called one of the most mysterious places in the world. With so few outsiders allowed in, much of what happens there remains hidden behind a wall of secrecy. But one chilling event during the Korean War pulled back the curtain, if only for a moment. On May 20th, 1951, near the town of Chorwon, a platoon of 20 American soldiers reported seeing an object in the sky unlike anything they had ever encountered. About the size of a car, the object moved with sharp, unnatural precision, performing maneuvers no known aircraft could replicate. What's even stranger? The soldiers fell ill shortly after the sighting, experiencing nausea and dizziness, symptoms that puzzled investigators. Some suggest the physical reactions were due to the fight-or-flight response, while others speculate sensitivity to electromagnetic fields often associated with UFOs. Despite an investigation by the U.S. Air Force, no solid explanation was ever found. Was it an alien spacecraft or something else entirely? Whatever it was, the mystery remains as tightly sealed as the borders of North Korea itself. Number 14. Betty and Barney Hill. This story is pretty hard to believe, but it remains one of the most famous alien abduction cases in U.S. history. On September 19, 1961, Betty and Barney Hill were driving through rural New Hampshire when Betty noticed a strange light moving erratically in the sky. Convinced it wasn't a star or airplane, she urged Barney to stop. The light descended, revealing a rotating craft over 60 feet long. Barney saw figures through its windows and heard a voice in his head saying, "Stay where you are and keep looking." Hours later, they woke up confused, with no memory of what happened. When they got home, Betty's dress was torn and covered in pink powder, their watches had stopped, and Barney's shoes were scuffed. During hypnosis, Betty recalled the being saying, "Don't be afraid, we only want to examine you." She later drew a star map from her memories, believed to depict the Zeta Reticuli system. So, what is it real? Well, you can Google. Number 13. Alderney UFO sighting. On April 23, 2007, Captain Ray Bowyer was flying a routine flight from Southampton, England, to Alderney when something extraordinary happened. He and his passengers saw two massive yellow cigar-shaped UFOs. These crafts were recorded by Jersey Airport radar control for over 55 minutes. Another pilot flying near Sark also confirmed their presence, as did hotel guests who reported bright objects in the sky to BBC Radio Guernsey. During an address to the U.S. National Press Club later that year, Captain Bowyer stated, "The British Civil Aviation Authority knew within 20 minutes of the sighting." Despite detailed flight logs, radar data, and countless eyewitnesses, no explanation has ever been provided. The object's size and behavior defied conventional explanations. With even military authorities involved, this incident remains one of the most credible UFO sightings in aviation history, an enigma that continues to baffle experts and enthusiasts alike. Number 12. The Belgian UFO wave. Between November 1989 and April 1990, Belgium witnessed a non-earthly extraordinary UFO phenomenon that will also leave you in shock. Thousands of people reported seeing triangular crafts with bright lights flying silently over the country. On March 30th, 1990, 13,500 witnesses watched in awe as two F-16 fighter jets chased the UFOs. Radar locks confirmed the objects, which displayed impossible maneuvers, accelerating from 150 mph to over 100 mph and changing altitude within seconds. The Belgian Air Force, unable to identify the crafts, openly admitted their confusion. Major General Wilfried de Brouwer later described the wave as exceptional. Despite radar data, eyewitness reports, and government acknowledgement, no explanation has ever emerged. Whether alien in origin or advanced military technology, the Belgian UFO wave remains one of the most compelling and well-documented cases in UFO history. Number 11. Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson. On October 11, 1973, Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson were fishing by the Pascagoula River in Mississippi when blue lights reflected off the water. Initially thinking it was a police car, they soon realized it was something far stranger, a football-shaped craft descending from the sky. Three creatures with pincers for hands and robotic mouths floated toward them, wrapping their pincers around the men's necks. Parker and Hickson were taken aboard the craft, placed in a trance-like state, and examined by an eye-like machine. After being returned to the riverbank, the men reported the incident to the police. Their private conversation, unknowingly recorded, reinforced their sincerity. Hickson's emotional statement to Parker, "They could have done anything to us," remains haunting. For decades, the pair stayed silent, but Parker's 2018 book brought renewed attention. Other witnesses later confirmed UFO sightings in the area that same night, solidifying this case as one of the most credible abduction stories. Number 10. Antonio Villas-Boas. On October 16, 1957, Antonio Villas-Boas, a young Brazilian farmer, claimed he was abducted by extraterrestrials while working on his family's farm. He described a large egg-shaped craft landing near him, emitting bright red light. When he tried to flee, the tractor's engine died, forcing him to escape on foot. Small beings, wearing gray overalls and helmets, captured him and took him aboard their craft. Inside, he was stripped, covered in gel, and led into a room adorned with strange red symbols. The beings took blood samples from his chin and later introduced him to a female alien. Antonio recalled she had platinum blonde hair and striking cat-like eyes. After engaging in sexual intercourse, she smiled, pointed to her belly, and gestured upward. When Antonio returned home, he realized 4 hours had passed. A medical exam revealed symptoms of mild radiation sickness. His story, though bizarre, remains one of the most famous early alien abduction cases. All right, guys, now prepared for the amazing ones. Number 9. Rendlesham Forest Incident. On December 26, 1980, a UFO was spotted near England's Rendlesham Forest, close to the Royal Air Force Station in Woodbridge. Initially thinking it was a plane crash, several Air Force personnel, including Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, ventured into the woods. What they found defied explanation. Halt's memo described a glowing metallic object moving at incredible speeds. The next morning, investigators found triangular impressions in the ground, broken branches, and radiation levels 10 times the norm. Years later, Halt signed an affidavit accusing both the US and UK governments of a cover-up. While skeptics argue it may have been a Soviet satellite or a hoax, others consider it one of the most credible UFO sightings ever. Decades later, the Rendlesham Forest incident continues to spark debate and curiosity, leaving the question unanswered. What really happened that night? Well, share your crazy theory below. Number 8. Travis Walton. Travis Walton's story is the stuff of legend, and when you Google it, you exactly know why. On November 5, 1975, While working in Arizona's Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, Walton and 6 co-workers saw a saucer-shaped craft hovering nearby. Curious, Walton approached the craft, only to be struck by a beam of light that rendered him unconscious. Terrified, his colleagues fled. Walton later woke in a hospital-like room aboard the craft, where 3 short, bald beings observed him. After fighting them off, he was restrained by human-like figures who placed a mask over his face. 5 days later, Walton was found walking along a highway, disoriented but unharmed. His co-workers passed polygraph tests, supporting his story. Walton later published a book, The Walton Experience, which inspired the acclaimed film Fire in the Sky. Though skeptics question his account, Walton's story remains one of the most famous alien abduction cases. Number 7. The Phoenix Lights. As far as I'm concerned, it was otherworldly. This statement by former Arizona Governor Fife Symington III sums up the mystery of the Phoenix Lights, one of the most famous UFO sightings in U.S. history. On March 13, 1997, a massive V-shaped craft with 5 glowing lights silently passed over Phoenix around 8:15 p.m., blotting out the stars as it moved across the night sky. By 10 p.m., the U.S. Air Force dropped military flares in the area, claiming it was a routine exercise. However, many believe this was a deliberate attempt to discredit the UFO sightings made earlier that evening. Eyewitnesses described the craft as enormous, moving in perfect formation, unlike anything man-made. Symington later remarked, "This craft did not resemble any man-made object I'd ever seen." Despite video footage and hundreds of eyewitness accounts, the true nature of the Phoenix Lights remains one of the most debated UFO cases. Number 6. Lake Superior, Michigan. Lost without a trace is the perfect idiom to describe the chilling disappearance of an F-89C Scorpion jet over Lake Superior on November 23, 1953. Piloted by First Lieutenant Felix Monclaude Jr., with Second Lieutenant Robert Wilson as radar operator, the jet scrambled to intercept an unidentified object detected by ground radar. As the jet closed in on the object, the radar operators watched in shock as the blips merged before vanishing entirely. Neither the jet nor the UFO was ever seen again. Despite an investigation, the Air Force found no trace of wreckage or a clear explanation for the disappearance. Theories range from a crash into the lake to interception by a Soviet aircraft, or even abduction by extraterrestrials. With no wreckage and unanswered questions, the Kinross incident remains one of aviation's most enduring mysteries, leaving many to wonder what truly happened that fateful night over Lake Superior. Number 5. Hudson Valley UFO Wave. Between 1982 and 1986, the skies above the Hudson Valley, just north of New York City, became the center of an unprecedented UFO wave. Nearly 5,000 witnesses reported seeing massive V-shaped crafts with multicolored lights gliding silently overhead. The first sighting on New Year's Eve 1982 was made by a retired police officer in Kent, New York. Initially mistaking the object for an airplane, he realized its silent and slow movement defied any known aircraft capabilities. Eyewitnesses described the craft as slow-moving, while others claimed it could accelerate rapidly, even vanishing without a trace. One particularly chilling incident involved a UFO hovering just 30 feet above the Indian Point nuclear plant, causing a security supervisor to consider firing at it before it disappeared. Despite photographic evidence and extensive reports, the UFO wave was never fully explained. Whether alien or experimental technology, the Hudson Valley sightings remain one of the most documented UFO events in history. All right, now, let's talk about Number 4. Shag Harbor UFO Incident. What happens when an entire town witnesses something they can't explain? That's exactly what unfolded in the small fishing village of Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia, on October 4, 1967. as an unidentified object streaked across the sky and crashed into the Atlantic. At least 11 witnesses reported seeing it hit the water with a loud bang. Laurie Wickens and his friends contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who arrived to find a glowing object floating 1,000 feet offshore before it sank beneath the waves. The Navy and Air Force searched tirelessly, combing the seafloor for any evidence. Despite their efforts, no debris, aircraft, or explanation was ever found. Investigators confirmed all planes were accounted for, deepening the mystery. To this day, this incident remains Canada's most famous UFO case, proof that sometimes even the ocean keeps its secrets. Number 3. Westall UFO. It was just another school day, until it wasn't. On April 6, 1966, Melbourne, Australia, became the site of one of the most well-documented UFO sightings in history. At 11 a.m., over 200 students and teachers at Westall High School witnessed a gray, saucer-shaped craft hovering near the school before descending into a nearby field. The object, about twice the size of a family car, remained visible for nearly 20 minutes. While some suggested it might have been a weather balloon, witnesses dismissed the explanation, noting the object's distinct shape and movements. The Royal Australian Air Force denied having any aircraft in the area, and skeptics proposed it could have been an experimental military craft. To this day, the Westall UFO remains a mystery, with eyewitness accounts contradicting every official explanation offered. The incident continues to baffle investigators about what really happened in the Melbourne skies that day. Number 2. Anchorage, Alaska. Flying over the vast wilderness of Alaska might feel isolating, but for Captain Terauchi and his crew aboard a Japanese Boeing 747 cargo plane on November 18, 1986, it was anything but. Two glowing objects approached their plane, lighting up the cabin and creating an intense heat that left the crew shaken. As the lights faded, a massive disc-shaped craft emerged from the darkness and began following the plane. Despite changing course and contacting Anchorage Air Traffic Control, the UFO persisted, its presence confirmed by ground radar. Captain Terauchi later described the experience as terrifying, saying the craft was unlike anything he'd seen in his decades of flying. Though the incident was thoroughly documented, the FBI and CIA later downplayed its significance, denying key meetings even took place. This encounter remains one of the most credible UFO sightings, backed by both eyewitness testimony and radar evidence. Number 1. Chicago O'Hare International Airport. Airports are known for delays and bustling crowds, not unexplained flying objects. But on November 7, 2006, Chicago's O'Hare International Airport became the site of a UFO sighting that left everyone talking. A metallic saucer-shaped craft was spotted hovering over the airport for nearly 2 minutes. Close to a dozen United Airlines employees, from pilots to supervisors, saw the object shoot straight up into the sky, leaving a visible hole in the clouds. The Federal Aviation Administration initially denied any knowledge of the incident, but a Freedom of Information Act request revealed recorded conversations about the sighting. While the FAA suggested it was a weather phenomenon, the conditions didn't support that explanation, and airport lights, another theory, hadn't even been turned on. Despite credible witnesses and recorded evidence, no proper investigation was conducted. So, what's your theory about this? Let us know. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.